Hello everyone, lots of important news coming out tomorrow. We have a lot to take a look at. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the TIP, the 30-year bonds, the VIX, the NASDAQ, the tech stocks, the S&P 500, and the IWM. We're going to take a look at what the next steps are for the overall market. So without further ado, let's get started with the video. All right, so first things first, we had news coming out at 10 a.m. today. And if we remember, the market ended up bouncing pretty substantially after this news came out. So the news was better than expected, which was good for the overall stock market. But now tomorrow morning, we have a lot of important news. We've got GDP numbers coming out tomorrow morning, as well as unemployment claims. So 8:30 a.m. prior to the market opening, we have a lot of news coming out. Then at 3:45 p.m., we've got Mama Treasury Secretary Yellen giving a beautiful speech at 3:45 p.m. That's definitely going to move the market as well. So it's going to be, I wish we could have went long overnight, but the reason why we couldn't is because so much indecision in terms of pre-market news, and it would literally just be a gamble to hold anything overnight, in my opinion, anything substantial. So yeah, keep that in mind for tomorrow morning, and things should be fun. Then, of course, after tomorrow on Friday, we're going to have more news coming out prior to the market open at 8:30 a.m. core price PCE data. And then we're going to have a double trifecta, not a trifecta, the equivalent of a trifecta for two. At 9:45 a.m., we're going to have more news coming out, Chicago PMI data. And then 10 a.m., we're going to have revised consumer sentiment. So, as you know, we should not be holding on to anything during important news during the day, during market hours. So at 9:45 a.m. and at 10 a.m. on Friday, we are not going to be holding any positions. Okay, so there's that. There's not much else going on in terms of the macro news for this week. So for now, there's that for the macro news. Let's go ahead and take a look at the tips. So this is the tip, right? So the tip is a bond ETF that basically has a basket of bonds in it. And currently it gives a better yield than regular bonds. So investing in the tip is a better yield and bigger return than normal bonds, but it's more risky. So the way that this is correlated and what we're doing and why we're watching this is that when the tip is up, then that means the overall market, and more specifically, the tech sector should also be up, because currently the tech sector is a flight to safety for investors in the stock market and the equities market, because the bank sector is taking a huge hit. So that's why the flight to safety is going to stocks that have better balance sheets, that are better companies, that have better operating cash flows, and those are the tech stocks. So therefore, the tip, when it's bullish, is good for tech stocks. Currently, we can see that it's holding up in this uptrend. Things are still technically bullish on the tip. Generally, something like this, when it happens, it's very, very rare that it completely just breaks above. But for now, it's holding support. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens into the end of the week. But for now, things are looking like support is being held and things are bullish on the tip, which means that it's bullish for the NASDAQ. The next thing I quickly want to take a look at are the 30-year bonds. So the 30-year bonds also have a bit of a correlated relationship to the market. If the bonds are bullish and the bonds are doing well, that means that the tech stocks should be doing well. And you can see that they're still holding support, whereas the tip are in an uptrend. The bonds are still holding a horizontal level of support like this, still in a bull flag. Things look technically bullish. We're still holding that support. Okay. All right, next, let's go ahead and take a look at the VIX. The VIX has an inverted correlation to the market. If the VIX is falling, that means that the overall market is bullish. So what we need to look at is the key levels of support for the VIX are 18.5, or generally 18 and 18.5. If we are basically going to hold these levels and the VIX is going to bounce at 18.5 here and 18, right? Then we shouldn't expect that there's going to be much more downside on the VIX. And if there's not going to be that much more downside on the VIX, that means that there's not going to be that much more upside on the market. So that is something that we have to take a look at. With the VIX falling like this, there isn't that much more room to go to the downside in terms of these supports. As long as, I mean, if we end up breaking below 18.5 and 18 on the VIX, then it becomes very, very easy to be bullish. And similarly, if we are above 25 and above 26 on the VIX, then it becomes very easy to be bearish on the market. Okay, so basically a VIX, it's the gauge of strength or weakness for the overall market with volatility, in terms of volatility. And these are the levels that I'm looking at. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens moving forward, especially if these levels can hold, if they're not going to hold. I mean, there's a lot. So currently, this is a bearish setup on the VIX. It should be continuing to vomit and really, really fall very heavily. So the reason why I'm skeptical of what is going to end up happening is because, you know, into Friday, I was expecting us to have a bounce close to where the JP Morgan collar trade, where the calls were going to expire. I'm going to talk about that a bit later, but basically it could mean that we have a vomit in the VIX and a spike up in the SPY, but I don't think it's going to be sustainable. I don't know if it's going to be sustainable, and especially, like, it's very tough to say what direction this is going to go, especially given tomorrow morning we have all this news coming out. So there's my thoughts on the VIX. Next, let's go ahead and take a look at the tech stocks: Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Tesla, the chips. All right, let's just go through the list very quick. So Apple clearly looks very bullish. This was a very bullish hold of 155. We never even got to 155. We held 156. Boom, we gapped up. The MACD has not even started to move up yet. So the fact that the MACD is oversold still and still falling lower, yet the price of Apple is moving higher, is generally very, 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 very bullish. So this is a very bullish momentum. This is very bullish for Apple currently. But again, you know, it all depends on tomorrow morning's news. But in general, if there wasn't any important news tomorrow morning, this would be bullish. Okay. Amazon, same concept. So this is Amazon on a daily chart. Clearly you can see that things are still in a bull flag. We bounced off of the 50% fib level. Things look bullish. We closed almost at our highs, and the MACD is starting to move upwards. This looks like a bullish setup, and Amazon above 102 is going to be very interesting, especially if we get a nice close above the 38.2% fib. But in general, once again, this would generally be a very bullish setup on Amazon. Microsoft looks very similar to Apple in terms of the MACD and the strength. So once again, Microsoft's MACD is falling lower, yet the price of Microsoft is sharply rising. This is a very bullish setup. We didn't even come back to retest the 23.6% fib. Microsoft is clearly very, very strong at the moment, and it looks very bullish. So technically, once again, this would be a very bullish setup. And let's take a look at Tesla. Tesla looks bullish as well. This is a bullish bull flag, clearly, right? Things look bullish. We bounced off of this important fib level, the 23.6% fib. Things look bullish. The MACD is starting to curl upwards. It stopped its downtrend, right? The blue MACD line stopped moving down, starting to flatten out, while the yellow MACD line is moving upwards. So the momentum of Tesla, it looks like it wants to start moving upwards. So far what we've seen in these other tech stocks, all of them have bullish setups and they look bullish. Next, let's go ahead and take a look at the chip stocks, Nvidia and AMD. All right, starting off with Nvidia. So if Apple and Microsoft's MACD looked strong, then Nvidia's looks very, very strong. Nvidia's MACD is pointed sharply lower. Nvidia's price is moving higher. This is a very, very bullish setup for Nvidia. AMD, not as crazy bullish, but it's pinned to the 23.6% fib. If we could get a nice close above 97.50, things could be bullish. Similar MACD situation on AMD as well. AMD and Nvidia basically are chip stocks. They move in unison, and things are good when they are essentially, like, they've been market leaders for quite some time now. So there's that for everything. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the ETFs. We can take a look at the NASDAQ, the SPY, and the IWM. All right, here's a chart of the NASDAQ. time and time again, we have seen this be a very, very bullish setup here. Like, if we did not have news coming out tomorrow morning, this would be a very explosive move to the upside. We could see that the MACD on the NASDAQ is still pointed lower, but we gapped up. This is a very bullish setup. We did not fill the gap in today. We continued higher and we held the levels of support, and we just kept showing strength the entire time. So this is very, very bullish. Unfortunately, we have news tomorrow morning, so we couldn't play to the upside, but super in general, this would be a very extremely bullish setup. You have the large tech stocks looking really good as well. All eyes, everything would be pointed to just going long on the market. Same exact concept with the SPY. We gapped up above this downtrend level, and then we closed, we pinned, we touched the 38.2% fib at 401.68 here, and we're having a bit of trouble here. But again, we got a close above this downtrend. Generally, we should continue up, right? Things look bullish on the NASDAQ. Things look bullish on the SPY. We clearly closed above this downtrend that I was looking at. Unfortunately, I wish this would have happened yesterday. So this doji candle, I wish it would have been up here and close similar to what we have here, because then if that was the case, we would have went long into this morning and it would have continued up a bit higher. So the thing that I wanted to talk about with the JP Morgan collar is that we have on the SPX 406.50 is basically the top range of that collar trade that JP Morgan has that expires this Friday. So that's why many people are saying that because that's the case, we could get the 40.65 level could act as a magnet on the SPX. So that means that the SPY can end up moving a bit higher to that level into Friday. And then after that, once we have whatever bullish move, that's when it's going to dump. So my entire process, my entire way of thinking this entire time has been like, I'm not sure how much more room we have to the upside. But for now, like, the setups look very bullish. Tomorrow morning we have news, and after Friday it's going to be very, very interesting, because quarterly those trades that JP Morgan puts on are very, very important. So it's going to be very fun to see what happens. So yeah, there's that for the SPY. I would have loved for this setup to happen this morning, yesterday morning instead of this morning. So yeah, unfortunately, we can't really hold anything or do anything overnight. But generally, once again, this is a bullish technical setup. This should usually continue moving up. And very quickly, we could take a look at the IWM. It started to show some life at the end, but basically, overall, the overall market is just basically waiting for tomorrow morning's news. The financial stocks and the IWM retail, economically sensitive stocks are taking a hit. So that's why the IWM is completely underperforming compared to the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. So we're going to have to take a look at how this GDP news comes out and what the market responds with. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And I will see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning. Thank you.